Through you, Mr. Mayor, it is 9 a.m. The live stream and recording has begun, and you may begin your meeting.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I see, good morning, Council. Good morning, SLT. I see we do indeed have quorum. So I call this regular meeting of Wednesday, July 2nd into session. And I will ask all those that can to please rise, and we'll have the national anthem. As we do at all town events, we now will have the land recognition statement, and this morning Deputy Mayor Eckert has the privilege of reading it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The town of Pelham is situated on treaty land steeped in the rich history of the First Nations, such as the Hattie-Wendoronk, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. This territory is covered by the Upper Canada Treaties and is protected by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement. Today, many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people from across Turtle Island live and work in Niagara. The town of Pelham stands in solidarity with all Indigenous peoples, past and present, acknowledging that our high standard of living is a result of the resources and lasting friendship of Indigenous peoples.
Thank you, thank you, Deputy Mayor Eckert. Before we get into regular council business this morning, Council, we have two special guests along with Mom and Dad. I have a preamble that I will read just so I don't, so I get everything correct. On behalf of the town of Pelham, I want to extend congratulations to two remarkable Fenwick youths, Sisters Sophie Rose and Chloe Ray Fillion, whose ingenuity and passion for science have once again earned them national recognition. 63rd Canada-wide Science Fair was held in New Brunswick this June, and the sisters' inspiring Home Smog Alarm Project earned the Platinum Award for innovation in the senior age category. The Home Smog Alarm device, designed to detect dangerous air quality both inside and outside the home, including the effects of wildfires, household gases, and more, showcases creativity, practical engineering, and a deep understanding of how innovation can improve lives. Using microcontrollers and sensors, the device measures both indoor and outdoor air quality, and then, when the air becomes unsafe, it automatically sends a text alert letting you know when to open or close your windows. It's impressive work, and this is just the most recent of a growing list of achievements for these bright young minds. It is really encouraging to see Pelham youth putting their minds to building tools to solve real-world problems. Two of you are shaping the future from your parents' dining room table, and it's inspiring. Congratulations again. Pelham is very proud of your accomplishments, and I'm looking forward to seeing where this project and your talents take you in the future. Council, so Sophie, Ray, and Chloe, please welcome to the council chambers this morning. And if you can come up to the microphone, I'm sure council has other questions. I have a few questions myself. First of all, I'd like to state that science fairs were just becoming into vogue when I believe, the first one was in grade 8. And I believe the one that won that first science fair was someone designed a closet for shoes. So it's come a long way, I must say. Micro sensors and what have you, and this device that you put forward. Yeah, talk about where did you get the idea, and yeah, just explain the background of the project, please.
So we had attended science fairs in the past for different projects, and we went to Canada-wide Science Fair a couple years ago in Alberta, and we witnessed the smog and all the impacts there, and we didn't know when to open or close our windows, or if the indoor air was actually better than outdoor air. So we wanted to create a system where we could actually prove when to open and close our windows for what reasons.
Wow, awesome, awesome. And the story has it you devised this on your kitchen on the dining room table. Is your dad an engineer? Did he help you along the way, or was this solely a sister project?
Yeah, our dad did help us.
Okay.
He's an electrical engineer. He's been helping us with projects throughout the years. So not only did he help us, but throughout the years since we were kids, he's been helping us learn different aspects of engineering, including programming, circuit designs, all these things. So we apply knowledge from our previous projects, and we use his help to create our new projects.
Awesome, awesome. And are you going to, are the plans to follow in Dad's footsteps and become engineers, or is that undecided yet?
A little bit. I want to become a teacher, so he's also a teacher. So I want to become a teacher and go more into the math route.
I'm definitely considering for university to go into an engineering. I'm more so considering chemical engineering compared to electrical, but it's definitely one of my interests.
Wow, excellent. Now, before university, are there any more science fairs on the horizon?
Well, this year was my last year of science fair, so that put a close to that. But Chloe still has one more year left, so we'll see.
Excellent. And any project in mind, or you want to keep that under wraps?
Not quite yet. It's whether I'll continue with this project or I will go and create a new project on my own.
Excellent. Well, like I say, the town is so proud that you on the national stage, and your project ended up on top. So congratulations again for that. Any questions from any councilors? I see Deputy Mayor Eckert.
At least my last science project, I built a model of the Apollo project, and it had something to do with science and not shoes or whatever, but and Marvin Soloway and I. So, yeah, what an accomplishment, holy smokes. And I can only imagine my mother saying to me, Brian, get that stuff off the kitchen table. It's time for dinner. So did that happen any times? Or did you have TV tables set up?
Yes. At one point, because the dining room table was full, but I think at a certain point they might have just given up because of what we had on the table.
Oh, excellent. So now here's a question, and I mean, might be for your parents or whatever, but when you come up with an invention like this, I mean, have you been approached by any companies? Do you patent this thing? What do you do?
We haven't been approached by any companies, but we were approached by several people at the fair asking about if it was patented or what we wanted to do next with it, turning into a business. So there's a lot of open possibilities that we could go down. So we're looking into different options right now. We're just not quite sure which one to go with.
Come back in 10 years and we can say, here's Sophie Rose and Chloe Ray, multi-millionaires from town of Pelham. And yeah, great, wonderful, great achievement. Congratulations.
Thank you, Deputy. Any other comments? I see Mr. Bernarski, Councilor Bernarski.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Congratulations, girls. I did read about your story in the St. Catharines Standard earlier in the year, so that was very interesting. And I want to just say, as a girl dad myself, a lot of times maybe we think of science as, excuse me, for boys, or right, or only the male can be engineers or things like that. But reading your story gave me a lot of pride, and for my girls as well, to know that girls could do anything. So great job.
Excellent. If no other comments, ladies, we do have on behalf of the town some certificates to present you with, and I would like to ask you to come in front of the horseshoe here, please. And again, on behalf of council, check these. I love this camera. Just want to make sure you throw this one. Sophie. Oops, sorry. And Chloe, you can hold those. And I'll have the honor of Stan getting in this picture, hopefully. Excellent. And one other thing. Because your project has knocked the socks off of everyone on council, we're considering you with the town socks. And congratulations. And of course, thanks for Mom and Dad. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Take care.
We can step out. I would flee.
Yes.
You don't have to stay for the boring, so. Mayor, I think the winning one when you were in grade 8 was the invention of the.
Yes, well, that could have been it too, yes. Okay, one more thing, if council's indulgence, the fire department had a nice little recognition this past week. Asked the chief, Bob Limburner, to fill that one out, please.
Good morning, through you, Mr. Mayor. We got notified from the province that we met our emergency management annual compliance, which is a requirement by all municipalities in the province. We do it every year, and again, we were successful this year. But not only myself, but there is a number of people that are involved. David Cribbs, Ryan Cook, Leah Letford, she was here. Myself, we're the committee, and then we have a control group that also contributes along with Sylvia and a few others. So it's a group effort. It's similar to the water certification that we have to do. It's a very long, drawn-out process. It takes us quite a few months of documentation and that, but we do meet the provincial requirements.
And 13 steps, if I can call them that, have to be completed every year?
That's true, yes.
Yeah.
Training, there's 13 things that need to be met each year. If I can think back years ago when we first started this, it used to be a single page that I would check off the boxes and the mayor would sign and we'd submit it. Now we've got to the point where it's an online submission, but it's hundreds of pages, so.
Excellent. And not wanting to put you on the spot, but I will. How many hours of training would the volunteers go through in a typical year? It always blows my socks off how you guys train for, obviously you got to train on the equipment, then you got to train on the process once you get to a fire. Any idea how many hours that would be?
It varies, depends on what position you're in and in your time commitment. Some have more time than others, especially if you have young children and so forth. But it's hundreds of hours by each person annually.
Okay, very good. Congratulations on your department on meeting all the criterion for that recognition. Thank you. One last thing, if I can, before we get to the agenda. Yesterday, July 1st, the town of Pelham had the parade and put on a very nice celebration at the Harold Black Park. I want to thank all these counselors that showed up, and I believe everyone was there. And it was a great parade route. The firefighters went first. They would hose everyone down, and And then by the time council went there, we got additional water, but at least they had the candy to fend off most of the squirt guns. So it was a great day, and again, it was a well-staged event. I believe all the citizens were very appreciative of the day that they had down at the park. So I just wanted a special thank you to the town staff. An event like that doesn't just happen. A lot of work, a lot of planning, and just want to, on behalf of council, thank everyone for putting another great day together again for July 1st. Now, let's continue on with business. I turn to the clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That brings you to the approval of the agenda, and I have a motion put forth by Councillor Kerr, seconded by Councillor Niznik, that the agenda be amended to add item 14.1, being bylaw 39, 2025. To you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. After viewing the agenda, is there any comments or questions? Not seeing any, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? See none opposed, motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And now for the agenda as amended.
Okay, on the agenda as amended, any other comments or questions? Call the vote. All those in favor? I see none opposed, motion carries.
Thank you. That brings you to item 6, disclosure of pecuniary interests.
Thank you. After viewing the agenda, does any council member have a disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof to declare? Councillor Bernarski.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, I will disclose pecuniary interest for items 2.1 and 2.2 in the closed session, as I serve as a volunteer firefighter with the town.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Ask the clerk to please note that.
Yes.
Any other? Not seeing any. To the clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That brings you to item 7, adoption of council minutes, and I have a motion put forth by Councillor Hildebrand, seconded by Councillor Brunarski. Be it resolved that the following minutes be adopted as printed, circulated, and read. C11, 2025, regular meeting of council of June 18th, 2025. To you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. After viewing the minutes, any councillor wish to make omissions or additions to the minutes? Not seeing any. Call the question. All those in favor? See none opposed, motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That brings you to item 8. If there are any items to which council would like to lift from the consent agenda, now would be the time.
Is there any items on the consent agenda that any councillor wishes to lift? Not seeing any, Madam Clerk.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moving on, that brings you to the consent agenda. It is relatively lean today, so perhaps it could be considered as a whole.
Okay, thank you. Before I turn to the rest of the council, if I may, to the Director of Planning, Dr. Dusling, implementation of site plan lapsing dates. Is that has that become, or has it been a problem that we're just addressing, and are we merely hopefully following what other communities, municipalities already have in place?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, great question. We implemented a 3-year lapsing date on site plans back in January, and it seems to be going fairly well. We haven't had any complaints from our development community about that, and it is a standard practice in the world of planning today.
Excellent. Good to see that we're closing that gap. It seems that sometimes we okay a development and then years go by before work starts. So hopefully this will encourage faster moving forward. Excellent. And before I go one more on 9.2, I believe it's 9.2, was the Bill 17. We've discussed that off and on in council and the implications. It just, was there anything in this bill that helped municipalities? Because it seems like a lot of it was, and I'm thinking back to the DC charges. We used to be able to, you'd get the building permit, you'd get your DC charges up front, and that was it. And now it looks like we're going to have to follow the construction phase. Is that what it says in that Bill 17? And we're going to have to, and as the phase continues, the buildings continue, we get additional funds as the process unfolds. Is that how that's going to work?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, there's lots of information in Bill 17. I will say it is probably beneficial to most developers and builders. In terms of collecting development charges, we used to collect that at the time of building permits. With this new legislation, we'll be collecting it at the time of occupancy.
Okay.
So it'll have a longer time for the builder or developer to be able to pay development charges. We'll have to do some work on our end in figuring out how we track that and collect it.
So we may be having to send our treasurer out to the site to get this money. Any comments from the treasurer on this change?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. This definitely will cause problems for the town because we don't know when the money's coming, at least when the building permits were issued, the money came in and it went to the reserve. So there definitely will be a lot of follow-up from the building department to stay on top of making sure that the occupancy is issued, and as soon as it's issued, how do we collect that money? So we're working closely, finance is working closely with building. We've got a person, one of my financial analysts, that will be working with the building department as far as establishing a system for tracking the receivables and making sure that we stay on top of this. But definitely is going to be a lot more work administratively. And also, as you could see from the report, I'm very worried that the timing of when the revenue comes in is going to impact when we could do some of our capital projects because we are dependent on the money coming from development charges. And don't forget that off the top, I need $600,000 every year to pay for the interest and principal of the debenture debts that we have from the DC. So it's something we're definitely going to have to watch.
Yes, I appreciate that. Let's talk about taking a simple system and making it difficult. Just unbelievable, really. Anyway, those are my comments. I'll turn to Councilor Wink.
Yes, through you, Mayor. To Dr. Dusling, when you say occupancy, if you've got a 5-story apartment building, does that mean every unit has to be occupied or a percentage of the units occupied?
Through you, the mayor, to Councillor Wink, the occupancy happens collectively in a multi-residential unit. So it would be at occupancy of the building, when the building is ready to be occupied.
Okay, so the first person moves in and that's deems it to be occupied. So that's a bit of relief.
Yes.
That's our understanding.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilor. Any other questions on the consent? Councilor Kerr?
Yes, I read this, and I agree with the treasurer in that it's creating havoc for most municipalities. It's the Bill 17, I think, unfortunately, if they had linked it to building inspections at percentages as you go along, you get different agreements from the building department. Okay, you've satisfied this, then you satisfy this, then you satisfied this. It would have been much nicer, at least at this point, said we've got this much done, this much of the development charge is due. Having it delayed until full declared occupancy is somewhat insane, because now you're hoping that the person finishes the building. I think we've all seen instances where suddenly they drag on and then they ask for an extension for completion on things, and then it just delays it for another year or more. And it's very sad to see that, and I don't know how we get across to the province, or somehow, I'm sure we're not the only municipality in this situation, that it's worthwhile to get that information pushed up through the system, because it is going to result in extensive interest payments being charged to virtually every municipality in this province. An added cost that doesn't need to be, and they wonder why things go haywire at times. So that's just my comment. I really wish that they had linked it to the stages as having gone through new home construction. Yes, when this is completed, okay, you get a sign off from the building officials. It would be nice to have had it at least in that form. It's unfortunate at that point. I do have one comment about the site lapsing, but that's
Go ahead. No, we're going on any, okay, wait, you want to say? Go ahead.
My question pertains to this.
Okay, go
this
ahead,
issue.
Councilor.
Sorry.
No, that's fine.
You know, I'm looking at it, once it's occupied, the development charges are due. You know, what's to say that they're going to pay on time? And then all of a sudden, we become a collection department. Whereas before the system, We had a stick.
Yeah.
You give us the development charges and we'll give you the permit. We don't
Exactly.
have that leverage
No.
in the future, so it could get a little harried.
To the treasurer?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, maybe one of the things that we can do is not physically issue the occupancy until they pay. So you're ready for occupancy, the building department says, okay, you're good to go. You have to pay first, and then you get your occupancy. I think that's the only way we can do it, or we'll never collect our money.
Excellent. So we do have a little leverage right at the end then. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Anyone, any other comments? If on this particular item, if not, then we'll move on. And Councilor Curry?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, going back, I'm glad to see that the site plan lapsing dates is finally coming into play. Having lived next door to one that's been a development that's been stuck for 15 years, it's about time that a stick was wielded to say, okay, if you don't do something, let's go back to the drawing board. And I think we're all agree that there's a number of places we keep getting asked for rezonings and this and that for so many properties. And then they ask for more, yet we have all these properties that nothing's been done on. So I think this is very important, and I'm glad to see it's following, we're not the trailblazers here on this one, but we are following with other municipalities and getting in line so that we're consistent, because it is sorely needed in this town that it's about time that this type of thing is fully enforced. I mean, we went through a discussion in previous meeting about a particular development and an extension of another year for them to complete something. Well, that's gone from year 14 to year 15. We don't need this. Personally, I'd rather just say, if you can't do it, sorry, and then start again.
Excellent. Thank you, Councilor. Any other comments on any of the consent agenda items? I do have one question on the, this is from the region, and it's just because the region looks after our tree bylaw, woodland conservation bylaw update. Didn't seem like any outstanding changes. Again, anyone on planning have anything to say on that conservation bylaw update?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'll maybe invite Shannon to come up and speak a little bit more to it, but we understand that it is a timely update in terms of the bylaw has not been updated for a number of years and there's standard updates.
Okay.
But Shannon knows more of the details.
Thank you. Ms. Lewak, any further insights on the update?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The update primarily reflects the changing role of the region and the fact that most municipalities won't have a Niagara official plan for very long. So it's primarily an update to the language where there were references made to the Niagara official plan. Now the references are to the local official plans. The other change really relates to the definition of agricultural use and the agricultural use exemptions. And that change is to reflect the update to the provincial planning statement where they changed the definition there. So it's kind of a housekeeping, if you will, to reflect changes that have been made at the provincial level.
Excellent. So no, other than the updating and what have you, no new regulations or what have you that will affect the town's ability to protect forests and what have you?
That's correct. Pretty much administrative changes to reflect those changes that happen with different legislation.
Excellent. Very good. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Any other questions on any consent agenda item? Not seen any, Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a motion put forth by Councillor Wink, seconded by Deputy Mayor Eckert. Be it resolved that the consent agenda items as listed on the July 2nd, 2025 council agenda be received and the recommendations contained therein be approved. To you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. One last time, any further comments or questions? Not seeing any, I'll call the vote. All those in favor and none opposed, motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That brings you to 11.2, staff reports requiring action. Our first item is 11.2.1, options for automated speed enforcement in Pelham, and I have a motion put forth by Deputy Mayor Eckert, seconded by Councillor Bernarski. Be it resolved that Council receive report 2025-0154 for information, and that Council direct staff to proceed with option blank in this report. To you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Any councilors' comments on this report? Turn to Deputy Mayor Eckert.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, let me just start by saying that I don't think that there's any more complaints I get as a counselor than about traffic and speeding and et cetera. And I want to commend the town and staff for the excellent work that they've done on a number of streets to help to mitigate the traffic issues. However, I don't think we're done yet, and therefore, option one does not appeal to me whatsoever, and I would not be in favor of that. Now I have a couple of questions. I'm going to skip to number 3, which is partner with the Niagara region. It's my understanding, so I'm reading this, and you know the region says that in 2026 we might get 1 or possibly 2 cameras. We're about to lose the one on Highway 20, which in spite of what some people complain about it, I think it's been highly effective. I think all you have to do is travel down that road and you can see everybody slowing down. My concerns with the region, and here are my questions. Number 1, when I spoke to a representative from the region at the Pelham Active Transportation Committee, he said that any automated speed control camera that's installed in the town of Pelham will go on regional roads only. Is that still the case?
To the CAO.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you for the question. No, the concept here is that the region is in discussion with more than just the town of Pelham, with other Niagara area municipalities, and they're looking at what for, I guess, both parties would be a pilot project, in that this is really contemplating extending what are presently only done on regional roads into the communities, the various communities of Niagara. So it need not necessarily be a regional road.
Okay. So in other words, then, we would have very large input into where those cameras would be located.
In fact, they could only be located in community safety zones.
Yes,
This
I know
council
that, yeah.
has approved those. And
But I'm talking about those community safety zones and those school zones, we would have some input into where the region would put them.
I think it would be fair to summarize that that would not be a decision made by elected officials. It's correct and appropriate that elected officials determine where the community safety zones are. You've done so. But the rest of it is sort of an administrative exercise that, one, you would not want to politicize, and secondly, there are some engineering concerns and line of sight concerns and appropriate, there's some pragmatic considerations that typically would be left to engineering staff. So I wouldn't want to suggest that council would have carte blanche to choose. It's possible within a limited scope that council might have some input, but I would anticipate that decision either entirely or primarily being made at the administrative level.
And if I may, just before you continue, Deputy Mayor, when this came into the region made it quite clear, the administration, that the regional council would not have any say into where the region put the cameras. It's going to be based, it is based on, I believe, police reports, the highly, any intersection that had a high accident rate and what have you, but it was made clear that council would have no input as to where the cameras went, just for what it's worth.
Thank you. Perhaps I didn't word it. When I say we, or the town, I'm referring not to us here. When I say we, I mean us as the town, would have input to where it goes, as opposed to the region saying, here's where we're putting them, whether you like it or not. That was my point. I want to make sure that we collectively, staff, have the ability to say, here's where we would like them. And so that's that point. The other point is, I understand that am I understanding correctly that any cameras that we get from the region, we are actually buying? We're being charged for them?
So a lot of the details are fundamentally kind of privileged to keep for reasonable enforcement purposes. The prototype, the concept, as you'll see in option 3, specifically requires the least or no immediate capital contribution from the municipality. Because really it's, I would characterize this as a 1 to 2 year pilot. It seems clear to us that the region ultimately is looking to evolve its own process. It is the only option we investigated, one of the very few anywhere that still uses the provincial offences courts for automated speed enforcement. Almost every other one we interacted with has essentially an AMPS program, so not using the court system. And so during that 1 or 2 year trial project, I think the region, I think there's necessarily going to be an upcoming regional report to their council talking about how they would do their end of the pilot project. And it's sort of an extension of the existing one, which is to say there's a pooling of monies. Really, if we're talking about the monetary component, that results in shared fine revenue after the fact, after assuming convictions, or either fines are paid or convictions at court, which ultimately generates revenues. And those are currently already and have been shared for a year and a half, 2 years, thereabouts. I'm seeing head nods, so 2 years. So that would continue on and would simply, there'd end up being more cameras in the system. Right now, what the region has authority to have a finite number of cameras, and the suggestion, the concept is that they would expand that number of cameras as they start to learn what it's like to roll this program out into non-regional roads, into more what I would term as residential areas in various communities across Niagara, up to and including Pelham. And we have the benefit of being near the start, or possibly the first, in the event that this is the option, that's the will of council. Certainly there's no one ahead of us in the pipeline, we can say that.
Next, and I'm sorry to monopolize this, but the whatever revenue is generated from this, because if we're looking at reports around the province, I mean, you know, some places are generating millions of dollars and some not as much or whatever. But it would appear as though there's a sharing of the revenues between us and the region. However, the region dictates what we can use those revenues for. Am I reading that correctly? For traffic safety and things like that?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that is correct.
Okay. So they control the money, and if we come up with a good reason to spend it, they'll give it to us?
Well, through you, Mr. Mayor, we currently have in our budget right now, in the Public Works budget, a lot of safety, like even repair to the roads, and the Director of Public Works can talk about it in more detail, or the Manager of Public Works. So it's already in our budget, a lot of the initiatives that we're doing. So this will help to offset that. So they're not being very particular to say you have to do this. They just want you to do initiatives that are safety related.
Okay. So we would basically then maintain control of that. Lastly, with the region it's my understanding that the region has going through the POA, which is an extremely cumbersome, it's not the way to go as far as I'm concerned. But anyway, they have a threshold where if they hit a certain amount of tickets, they don't get processed anymore. My concern, if that's true, is that with multiple cameras in the larger municipalities, we're going to hit that threshold. I mean, I'm looking at some of these other municipalities, and they give out 32,000 tickets in a month and a half. And I'm understanding that our threshold isn't much higher than that. And so how often are these cameras even going to be on if we have a threshold?
Well, whether a camera's functioning at any given moment in time or not, fundamentally it sort of has a deterrence effect, not unlike driving by a police cruiser. I drove by 2 this morning to get to this building, and both times I checked my speedometer.
I agree
Thankfully,
with
I
you.
wasn't speeding. But
I agree with you, because I think that I don't know how many times or how long of a day that camera's on Highway 20, but it doesn't seem to matter, because I came through there very late one night with a car in front of me. I couldn't believe it. It was 1:30 in the morning, and he slowed right down to 40 kilometers an hour. So it is a deterrent just having it there. That's why municipalities used to get old OPP, or construction companies used to get old OPP cruisers, park them in a construction zone, empty, but people would see that cruiser and they would slow down because they didn't know whether it was an OPP active cruiser or not. So I understand that. Thank you very much for that. Going on to number 2, now Councillor Wink can correct me on this, or tell me if I'm on the right track, but when we had discussions at the conference in Toronto with suppliers of these cameras, the one that you state here, located out of Alberta, I think, Canada, Global Traffic Group. It's my understanding that there is no cost to the town for the cameras, for the installation, for the maintenance, unlike the Regions program, where we continue to install cameras that are easily damaged and destroyed. They have a different system where they mount them up higher. And if you want to destroy these cameras, you're either climbing a light pole, a telephone pole, or you're cutting something like that down, which in their history has never happened. So am I accurate on the camera original for the camera, like any payment on the town for the cameras, or do they provide the camera installation and maintenance, and then there's a cost sharing of any revenue that's generated between the supplier and the town?
All 3 third parties we interacted with presented high levels of professionalism, competence, and very clever systems. I think those are fair, universal remarks. What's important is all 3 systems have there's a variation between which has higher fixed cost and which has higher variable cost, but all have some amount. In one way, shape, or form or another, there's either everyone's got some fixed cost and everyone's got some variable cost. And so as a conceptual model, the more tickets that are issued, if your fixed cost is higher, you have to hit more tickets to hit your basic sort of, if we're just looking at money as opposed to traffic safety. Of course, that dictates, roughly speaking, volume, ticketing volume. Any system, any of those systems were the municipality to enter into an agreement, would necessitate the issuance of tickets, or ultimately would result in economic loss for the municipality. I think that's a fair statement, keeping in mind our non-disclosure agreements. Does anyone have any commentary they can add to that, or I think that's an acceptable summation. So there is no way to enter into an ongoing economic relationship that would not result in a system that was fundamentally obligated to issue tickets. I think that's a very fair statement. The fundamental difference is that while the region may have what I think could charitably described as an antiquated enforcement capacity at the end, that's nothing to do with what happens on the roadway, it is the only option that really requires little to no investment by the municipality during the trial phase, during the next year or two, possibly 3. I would like to add that the ongoing it is true that the region controls the finances, but we and every other municipality in Niagara knowingly entered into agreements with them, I want to say 3 years ago, on how future revenues that are now present revenues would be used, and we did voluntarily sign up to use whatever revenues are derived for traffic safety. So that we have consciously contracted that way and agreed, and that agreement is multi-year and is, I think next year we'll be negotiating towards a new one. I think I got the timeline right? Getting head nods. So whatever, to the earlier concerns, we may be, I actually think this has been working pretty well, but that's just my opinion. No matter what, whether you love it or hate it, we are going to be obligated to enter into some negotiations next year, and I would imagine, I'd be very surprised if the future vision wasn't a model more akin to the 3, what's contained in option 2. I would imagine it would evolve. I don't have insider knowledge. I just think that's kind of how it has to go eventually. So our current system is one we have contracted with several years back. I think we did it towards the end of the last term of council, for an agreement that covers us still today. I hope that's hit on it, but I don't see any way for us to go with anyone and discuss an option 2 that doesn't require tickets to be issued and would not ultimately require, would require tickets to be issued, and if different numbers of them per system, but every single day.
To the treasurer. Ms. Quinlan?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, just to update, the amount we received for 2024, our share for the Vision Zero was approximately $75,000. So that's $75,000 that we didn't have in our budget that helped to offset expenses that we already had built in our budget. So I think it's working very well.
Excellent. And that was at no input by the town staff at all, correct?
For what?
For getting the 75,000?
Right, that's
Yeah.
correct. That's just our system share. That's
Yes.
correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Councillor.
thank you. Yeah, I mean, we all realize that the purpose of these cameras, whether they're red light or speeding cameras, is for traffic safety. But we can't deny the fact that revenues are generated. And so now we want to look at what do we do with those revenues. So that's not the main part of this, generating revenues, but. And I'm not quite sure that I had my question answered, because I think it's important that before we choose an option that we know exactly what our upfront costs are going to be. And in any discussions that I've had over the last probably 18 months with the option 2 providers is that there is no upfront costs or maintenance costs, et cetera. I don't know if you can disclose that, but to me, that's an important part of this. But And, yeah, well, it does, and that's why I want to know that, you know. Go ahead, sorry.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, they do have expensive rental costs for each camera. I think each camera was 28,000. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's what I was afraid of. Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
What I can say is the town assembled accountants, engineers, lawyers, clerks, and one CAO who spent days, multiple meetings with each of the 4 potential partners, and then plenty of analysis after the fact, legal, financial, engineering, and whatever it is I do. And having done a very deep dives, these are fair summations. There is no such thing as a free lunch. They're fixed or operate, or like everyone has fixed and everyone has variable costs. They're all systems that work fabulously well. They've really figured out the technology and the integration. Fundamentally, if it is the will of council to proceed with some part of option 2, which is clearly not what staff are endorsing, but they've all built very clever mousetraps. Then we will come back with it. Then the way forward with that is to say, we like the stuff in option 2, come back with a specific endorsement, and we can, although it's not our advice to you, we can do that. If options 1 and 3 you could choose today, I think if I were in your shoes and option 2 is the will of the council, then we need to come back to you because there's 3 variations within option 2, and there we could do a big bowl of porridge, a small bowl of porridge, and the medium bowl of porridge kind of thing. So further analysis is possible if that's your preference and your will based on what you know here. We are capable of doing furtherance, so we shouldn't make a decision as between those 3 today, if that is your will, but the others, we're hoping fundamentally to get some guidance from you, and surely between option 1, 2, and 3, there'll be a majority view of some sort of preference. But I don't think we can land any part of option 2 today. We have a bunch of thoughts, and we would have to slightly present some of this information in a different way to be able to proceed that way, whichever one is the preference.
Okay, thanks very much, and I'll conclude. My goal here is to come up with the best system for the town and the residents of the town to respond to their concerns, and also come up with a system where we don't continue to be the laughing stock of having these things sawn off or spray painted or whatever on a continual basis. And so that's my goal. And I am also, no, I'm not even going to say it. I'm not going to say anything about the one on Highway 20 because I don't want to prod someone into doing something. So thank you very much for your patience.
Okay, thank you, Deputy Mayor Eckert. I'll go to Councilor Wink.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I've been to some of these presentations that these companies make, but a lot of it is when we're budgeting, it's on a wing and a prayer. So we don't know what our actual fixed costs are, and we don't know what our revenue is. And it was interesting in the Vaughn article where there was a lot of tickets issued in 1 week in a certain section, and then the next week it went down, and the next week went down. So it's great to say, well, the first week we delivered 32,000 tickets or whatever. We're not Vaughn. We're not going to be doing that many tickets. But point being is those revenues are large at first, and then they dwindle, and then your costs are still going up. None of these indicated what our staff costs will be and whether or not we require further staffing. The regions, they're doing everything. We're not getting a lot of revenue off of it, but there's not a lot of expense to the town. The Global Traffic said we'll do it turnkey. They've only had one camera vandalized, and that was some guy took a shotgun in Alberta and took out a camera. Other than that, they set it up that they don't get vandalized. But if they get vandalized, it's on us to have to replace that camera and whatever. With the region's plan, and if they add 1 or 2 cameras in the municipality on municipality roads, and I agree with the CAO that it's not up to us to sit there and say, okay, you've got to have a camera here or a camera there and move it around. Other people can do that. I'm leaning towards the Niagara region as our partner. We aren't going to have a lot of unknown costs and unknown revenues. And also, the councilors in Vaughan are getting inundated by phone calls about those cameras gave me X number of tickets and whatever. And I'm sorry. Yes, we get traffic calls. If we implement it on our own, we're going to get a heck of a lot more traffic calls. So I'm leaning with option 3.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Wink. I'll go back to this side. Any other comments? If not, okay, Councilor Nesbitt.
Yeah, just to thank you very much for the report. I think this is a bit of a slippery slope, and how much do we want Big Brother watching all of our movements and that sort of thing as we move through our community. I think our town has done over our current term anyways, we've really done some amazing things to control speed, and we've put in some road bumps over there on Pancake. We've put in some extra stop signs. We've put in extra signage. We've put in some blinking lights, crosswalks, those sorts of things. So we are doing a lot of other things that are helping with traffic safety, and I think also just keeping this kind of conversation going in our council and having that public education, I think, is also another really positive way we can work towards keeping the traffic safety or traffic speeds at the limits that the provincial government puts out in terms of what the speed limits should be on our roads. So I'm not sure I'm in favor of either. I think either 2 or 3. I think if we just continue what we're doing and maintain the status quo, I think the Niagara region is going to continue with its project and have it ongoing. And, we'll get on a rotational basis where we will have some cameras in our town on that rotational basis. So those are my thoughts.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Before we go to Councillor Kerr, just one other step that we have taken is that whenever a resident writes a letter to this council about a specific spot that they are noticing they're having a lot of speeding, the clerks forward that letter automatically to the appropriate Niagara Regional Police Department, and they will set up. They do take that quite seriously, and they will put up a speed monitoring device, a radar, whatever you want to call it, and they will visit that site. So that's another step that we have taken proactively to deal with residents' concerns. Councillor Kerr.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. I'll open that. I concur with Councilor Niznik. I have to openly admit I'm not a fan of automated speed enforcement for a variety of reasons. One is the machinery is binary. And what I mean by that, it's an either yes or a no. You're either speeding or you're not speeding. That, I find, has no concept of humanity to it in terms of if there's a policeman with a radar gun out, and I would think there are policemen that are potentially watching, and some retired ones in this room, that have known to have compassion where you issue warnings, not issue tickets. And the warning has as much reduction in speed from that person in the future as anything. The delays between being identified as having sped and suddenly getting your ticket more than 3 weeks later in the mail, and suddenly finding out you have 3 or 4 tickets, I find particularly offensive. Again, if a policeman's there, you get a ticket on the spot, you know you've done something wrong. There's no delay. The third part about this is that where some of these are located are what I call funnel roads. Highway 20, and I will use this as an example, is a funnel road. You can't get around Font Hill without having to go through all kinds of other stuff other than Highway 20. There is no bypass. So what people do is they'll get to Rice Road, cut over to Port Robinson Road, and fly down Port Robinson Road just to avoid the camera. We all know that. And incredibly, one that I run into, again in my ward, are the fact that people have learned that Foss Road from Welland has one stop sign in the city of Welland, and then the next stop sign is not until you reach Canberra Road in Fenwick. People have a tendency to fly down that road. It's not a community safety road, so there's never going to be automated speed enforcement on it, based on the criteria that we've been being given. We all know of other roads, Sawmill Road, a bunch of the rural roads, which I get queries about and comments to me of excessive speeds, are those particular roads. Through the school zones, I am fully, I'm not here to advocate don't ticket people. I'm more of where these are likely to be located are going to be so restrictive, it's not doing the work that we're hoping it to do. And the fact that as I said, the equipment, and they've often shown in many of them, reduce traffic on those roads. Once the word gets out that there's automated speed enforcement, people find bypasses, and they just do it automatically. It's kind of like people running away from RIDE. If they have a sense where a RIDE stop is, they don't go anywhere near that road. They find a way to bypass it. The minute you put it in place and it's fixed, unlike RIDE, which is mobile and moves around, you've now told people this spot in here is a bad place to drive through. And it could be as little as 1 or 2 kilometers. The part that I've never been able to find out, no one can tell me what the tolerances are on these pieces of equipment. No one. Is there accuracy? Plus or minus 1 kilometer per hour, plus or minus 2 kilometers per hour? What is it? No one wants to talk about that. So I have too many questions surrounding this and concerns that we are using something that still has holes in it. And as I said, when people get redirected into areas, I know of particular people, when the Rice Road camera was in by the school over there, because Quaker Road was closed, suddenly the volume of traffic on Rice Road increased dramatically, and all of a sudden the ticket numbers increased dramatically because people couldn't go anywhere else. They were forced down this road. People unfamiliar with the area were going through there. And local residents, but they were forced to take it. They would never have taken it otherwise. So I can't support at this point, at this time for this council, to go forward with this. If anything, I would prefer that we either stay status quo or ideally potentially look at, and like I said, I won't vote for option 2 or option 3. Option 1, if we have to pick an option, that would be the one. If not, I think until there's more information that comes back to us, I could even see moving as a deferral on something like this. But that's where I am right now in listening to the people around. I recognize speeding is an issue in this town. It's a huge complaint. But as has been mentioned before, I think we will hear phenomenal amounts from people, local residents who are not speeders, but they're also going to tell us they are unhappy with being tailgated by people because they've slowed down to do the speed limit, and suddenly there's a vehicle right on their bumper. And I've had this happen even in Font Hill on Highway 20, up near the log cabin and the other things, where I've slowed right down the speed limit and I've had a pickup truck ride my back bumper. And I've actually seen people pull out and pass in those areas as well, because road rage starts to build. from people that feel they're being unjustly done. So I had to say it openly, but that's my concern. I think we do have other alternatives, that we are looking at things with flashing lights for pedestrian crossings, stop signs. I think I just traveled through the city of Guelph. They actually have a large number of speed bumps, but they've done them in a way such that the emergency equipment can function and get through them without having to have this massive hump that they hit. It's actually the way it's built. It slows people down, but I think these are some of the creative things that I think we have to potentially look at rather than going to this route.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Kerr. Turn to this side. Any other comments here? If not, I will go to Councillor Hildebrand.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate all my fellow councilors' comments. I would echo what Councillor Niznik and Kerr have to say. I prepared my speech ahead of time, and obviously my speech was, I believe in engineer-based solutions. And I think we've done a phenomenal job on Pancake Lane, what we did there at the crosswalks, putting in those speed bumps. That made a significant impact on the traffic. The things that we've done at our crosswalks down in Canberra Road for the two schools down there, I'm not against speed cameras as such. I think on Highway 20, I don't know that there would be any other alternative other than have something like that either sitting there or pretending to be there. I don't know what other solution would work. But I guess if I had to state my position right now, I guess I'd vote for a deferral because I don't know what to do. Because either side has its advantages and disadvantages. So I guess based on my opinion right now, I'd call myself deciding on an engineer-based alternatives, with more alternatives being looked at by staff, investigating more of those, because I'm not sure that if I chose that option 2 or number 3, exactly what I was going to be getting. And I personally don't like Big Brother watching me, which is a camera. I'm adverse to that to some. And so on that basis, I guess if I was asked to choose an option, I would be choosing option 1 right now at this time. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Hildebrand. Councillor Bernarski.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, I appreciate the work that's been put in by this council with traffic calming measures. Spending the majority of my career working in the back of an ambulance, speed humps and other traffic calming measures are not ideal for emergency traffic, and now my time spent in a fire apparatus, it's very similar. So if there are options where, as Councillor Kerr suggested in Guelph, they have ways around that, but then again, in my mind, that costs more money, and we are required, to do that specifically. And from what I do understand about the region's cameras is that the ticket is sent to a joint processing facility in Toronto where someone does review it. And I mean, it's not a police officer standing right there on the side of the road and can determine if it's warranted or not, but there is some leniency in, is it a yes, is it a no? Same with the traffic light cameras. A person would review it and they can determine, okay, did they stop? Did they not? Ticket issued, yes or no? So kind of gives some of that human element, but obviously not right there side of road. And I agree that, we need to continue working to make our roads safer. So coming into this, I was thinking number 3 is where I would head. But if there's a deferral needed to get more answers, then, maybe I have more questions raised now, I don't know, but I still do like the idea of partnering with the Niagara region. They could put the cameras, we take those funds and then further invest them into our roads and infrastructure here, either traffic calming or just safety. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Bernarski. Don't see anything. Oh, Councillor Nesbitt.
Yeah, so maybe just a thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor, just a question, I guess, to our treasurer. So currently, we sort of have option 3 already happening. Is that correct? In terms of we are receiving some funds through cost share or through profit share based on the.
Yes, through you,
the
Mr. Mayor,
profits.
yes.
So we're already kind of getting that
Right, but
perk
this is
without
to
doing
add-
anything extra.
Right, these are on regional roads only right now.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. My opinion on speed cameras and on the options 1, 2, and 3, myself, I love the camera. I think we obviously needed it on our Highway 20. Ever since COVID came and we had those patios that you were actually sitting outside and watching the traffic go by you 50 feet away. It was some Saturday night, any night at 7 o'clock in the evening. It was that Highway 20 was ridiculous. So I am for speed cameras in major roads. I have no problem with that. Again, they're a stationary unit, so when we do put them in a spot, and exactly, it's going to be noted by everyone in the neighborhood, they will slow down for that camera and then obviously proceed to speed further on. If that's in a school zone, obviously that's a good thing. Do we have the population to support the financial part of speed cameras? Because as Councilor Wink suggested, the first week, maybe, I'm not going to say great, we may see financial rewards. By week 3 or 4, it's down to 0. And do we have to have a minimum of tickets before, or else do we start paying for the maintenance of the camera and what have you? So that's a problem. So yeah, I'm myself, I would just stay with number 1. I think that when we have people come to us or write to us, just in the last 2 weeks, I've had other people write to me, but they're not in the urban area, they're out in the rural. And I send them I give them Ryan Cook's number. He's our traffic guy, and he meets with them and says, okay, this is what we can do. Whether it be speed bumps, usually he tries to talk them out of that, and perhaps there's other ways we can get that speed down. So I think that we're doing in the suburbs, which is our roads, I believe that we're doing and perhaps can do other alternatives other than speed cameras. Myself, I would be more than happy after reading this report, seeing the effects of cameras on busy roads. Perry Sound is putting in, I forget how many the CAO mentioned, is putting a huge amount of cameras in. They're all in the tourist area so that people passing through the area, not residents, they're the ones that are going to be ticketed and hopefully slow down next time they pass through the town. This in the rural, in the urban area, in front of schools, I agree with that concept, but I think we can do, the number one thing that slows an area down is you cannot beat an officer on the road pointing a gun at someone coming at you. That's
Radar.
oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, make sure. Yeah. Although I dare say, yes, a radar gun, and of course that happened. 2 years ago, they did a spot check on Effingham Street by Henry at Pelham Winery, and it was incredible how many tickets they wrote out in the one morning there. But then, of course, they moved that to another area. You never know where they're going to be. That's the whole thing about police doing the radar checks. And like I say, now when we do get a complaint, I know I believe I said this once already, we had a severe speeding problem out on Weber Road and Victoria Avenue. They contacted me, I contacted the appropriate Niagara Regional Police, and a week later, the residents were emailing me back and saying, thank you. They caught the 3 or 4 guys that were using this road as a speedway. We really appreciate the prompt action. So if we can continue on getting that kind of reaction when we mention specific areas, then I think that's that's a great thing for this town. So I am personally quite happy with what we're doing in the urban areas. And we're always going to have speeders at, whether it be Sawmill Road, Foss Road, the only way we're going to do that is, again, to have someone there with a radar gun, and whether it be for 1-2 mornings a month, and people will respect the speed. You can have, anyway, that's my feelings. I would vote for option 1. We continue to improve our methods, look for new innovation techniques, and I guess if number 1 didn't, my next option A, and then option B would be to go to the region, and you could do it that way. But I just assume, right now I'm leaning to number 1. Councilor Kerr?
Yes, I think the last sentence in option 1, should council opt not to proceed with automated speed enforcement, staff will continue to monitor developments and explore the most effective tools to promote safe roadways. That's where I'm leaning right now. It doesn't preclude that we don't revisit this in the future, but I think we have enough questions, and I'll just follow up to Councillor Bernarski's about the going to the person that looks at it and decides whether it's going. Having family issues that resulted in one of these, getting nailed for 3 kilometers over the limit, traveling at the same speed as all of the other vehicles, and the comment was there had to have been at least 15 cars ticketed in a span of about 30 seconds for 3 kilometers. And that's what really irked me, was the fact that it fit in this range and there was no compassion attached to it. And if you want to challenge it, yes, you go to court and things like that. That's the thing where I'm coming back to my business of a machine that's somewhat binary. A person at the other end, if they want to be really binary, they can, just as any human being can. They can say, you were over? Sorry, I'm putting the hammer down. Like I said, multiple tickets over a period of time, and you pay $500, $600, $700 in fines in a span of less than a month because you weren't notified and it took you a month to find out. I just think that's going backwards. So I'm personally, if I have to select at this point, because town staff can continue to bring more information to us, I'm going to go for option 1.
Thank you. If I don't see any more comments, then we need a motion. But go ahead, Deputy Mayor Eckert.
Yeah, just a last comment on Councillor Kerr's comment. One of the things we have to be careful about is anecdotal evidence. And I think that anybody in this room that has talked to any camera system will tell you that they won't tell you, it's kept confidential, what the threshold is of getting a ticket. But they do guarantee that you're not getting a ticket for 3 kilometers over the speed limit. So we got to be careful with hearing it from someone unless you've personally got one for 3 kilometers over. That's where you can say that, because everyone, whether I've talked to the region people or private people or other municipalities, the threshold is not that low. So, I just was involved with one where a woman said, I stopped at the stop sign or at the stoplight, but I didn't stop in the right place. So when I went to inquire about that, you can read right on the ticket where it says, no, actually, she went around the corner at 31 kilometers an hour without stopping. So there was a person saying, I stopped, but I stopped in the wrong place, and I got a ticket for $200, $300 and some odd dollars. And when I looked into it, I said, no, you're wrong. You blew around the corner at 31 kilometers an hour. So the ticket was paid, okay? And nowhere in my questioning did I come up with a one that I would support. I'm other than saying I'm not in support of option 1, but I think we should not close the door on option 3 because of the fact that we're, as the treasurer said, we're already sort of involved in that again already. And what I'm looking for is something from the region that would maybe assist us on some roads that are town roads and not just regional roads. So my support would be not option 1, and if we're already involved with the region, I would be supportive of option 3. So now somebody needs to make a motion.
Okay, thank you, Deputy Mayor Eckert. Councilor Kerr.
I'll make the motion for option 1.
Okay, and is there a seconder for option 1? Councilor Hildebrand, you will second? Okay, you put the motion forward, and any other, you spoke quite eloquently on this. Any other comments?
I think we've all discussed this to the nth degree at this point, and it's a matter, let's make a decision and go forward.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Hildebrand as a seconder. Any further comments?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. Then in that case, we open it for discussion. Duly seconded. Any further discussion on the motion put forward? And not seeing any, I'll call the vote. All those for option 1, which is to remain at the status quo. All those in favor of option 1. Okay, and I'm also going to vote for that. And all those against option 1. And there's 3. Option 1 passes 4 votes to 3. Thank you, Council. A great debate, for sure. We'll leave the door open, and as we continue to get speed complaints within the town, we'll have to get with cooperation of staff, address each one on an individual basis going forward. I turn to the clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That brings you to the motion as amended with option 1. If Councilor Kerr and Councilor Hildebrand are okay, I'll reuse you as a mover and seconder for that motion. Perfect. So a vote on the motion as amended, inclusive of option 1.
Okay, so again, any further discussion on this item? So now it's amended, and option 1 is the choice. I'll call the vote again. All those in favor? And all those against? And again, passes 4 to 3.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That brings you to 11.2.2, Community Planning and Development Land Use Enforcement Policy. And I have a motion put forth by Councilor Kerr, seconded by Councilor Wink. Be it resolved that Council receive Report 2025-0160 for information, and that Council approve policy number S30005 as appended. To you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Any comments, questions on this Community Planning and Development Land Use Enforcement Policy? Perhaps to the director, any comments on this policy?
Through the mayor, no real comments. The report is basically just a process for us in community planning and development to standardize customer service, compliance, and enforcement.
Okay, thank you. I see no comments. I'll call the vote. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, Councilor Kerr.
I just have a quick question. Does this encompass during construction or things like this where there's, we had a situation on Highway 20 where there was a development going on and there were massive amounts of debris left when they went through in phase 1, and there were a lot of people very concerned about that. Is there within this anything relative to I'll just call it cleanliness of the site, that rather than leaving it looked awful along Highway 20 there for the longest time. Piles of concrete and other things, even though they finished phase 1, and now the second phase is up for sale, so it's not even being developed. So that's my concern, is that sometimes we can get into a development where it goes halfway and then it quits, and then they're stuck with something that's rather unsightly and unsafe.
Any comments on that, please?
Through you, the mayor, this policy is really for those developments that are in contravention of the zoning bylaw or in contravention of the Ontario Building Code. But I will ask maybe Andrew, our CBO, to comment on the cleanliness of construction sites, because that's something different.
Thank you for joining us, Andrew.
Thank you. Cleanliness sites, usually that's taken into consideration in the site plan agreement. So through the zoning, if they're in contravention of the site plan agreement, we can address it through those measures. There's not really any provisions in the act or the code that speak to that. We also have our building bylaw, which talks about cleanliness and fencing of sites to prevent any injuries to the public when they're adjacent to it.
Thank you, Andrew. Councilor Kerr?
And that's through this is particular to the actual building process on a site versus a site that's been zoned and then let go, correct?
Back to Andrew, I think.
Yeah, if you're speaking to when it's under construction, or if it's been abandoned or anything, if it's under construction, yes, there's provisions in the site plan agreement that, speak to where the materials are to be stored in a, safe manner, so you don't have trusses or anything like that strewn throughout, basically. So this would provide guiding principles for building officials and bylaw officers to attend site and, use those tools to have the site cleaned up, essentially.
Councilor?
No, that's fine relative to the actual building. I was thinking more, we've had some situations in Fenwick where there were lands rezoned, people came in for the rezoning, told us this is what they're going to do, started clearing brush and other things for it, and just left massive piles of brush. And then suddenly a for sale sign went up on it, and they weren't going to do anything else with the property. So that was more of where I'm coming from, of how we at least can, it's the safety and the aesthetics too. It looks pretty sad to somebody start something and then they quit partway through, and we can't follow through at least to make it look right.
Okay, excellent. And no, I think we're done. Thank you. Any other questions on the policy? Not seeing any, I'll call a vote. All those in favor? And I see none opposed. Motion clears.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That brings you to your next staff report, which is 11.2.3, Bulk Water Haulage Station Policy Review. And I have a motion put forth by Councillor Hildebrand, seconded by Councillor Niznik. Be it resolved that Council receive report 2025-0147 for information, and that Council direct staff to allow licensed business owners other than potable water haulers inspected by the Niagara Regional Public Health to access the bulk water loading station for commercial use for a trial period of up to 12 months, and that non-potable water users install and maintain a physical air gap between the station outlet and the tank being filled at all times, and that the licensed business owners registers and establishes an account with the town, and that Council direct staff to report back to Council following the trial period on the success of the trial program. To you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. First, I want to thank staff for bringing this back so quickly to Council. Seems like it's only 2 or 3 meetings ago that we had the presentation by Mr. Ward, and then here we have the report back. So it was great to see the speed at which the town staff took this request and looked into it. And I will have a few comments to make, and I will save them for later on. Any further discussion? And I see Deputy Mayor Eckert.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Briefly, to either Mr. Marr or Mr. Cook, but one of the complaints we've got is filling and water spilling while they're filling. And I see in the report that it's designed for the low fill option. Like, we don't have the people swinging it up top, filling it in. Now, the other day I drove by there and I sat and watched, and there was a fella in a lawn chair while he's filling up his truck. And to me, the water seemed to be pouring out of the connection to the bottom fill. And he was just, and I mean, you can hear it, you can see it. I mean, I guess they're paying for it because it's gone through the meter, but part of the complaint was that it's a waste of water. And then the second question is, or the second observation is, I happen to follow, and there's there's a certain company that has the cover on the top where there's no cover on the top. So you have to maintain quite a distance behind, or you can get your car washed as you're driving up the hill on Effingham.
Well, that'll save you $12.
Yeah, there you go. I just have a scrub brush out there as well. So does this do anything to sort of tell those people that they need to put a cap on the top of that thing? Because they're wasting an awful lot of water, although it may be keeping Effingham Street nice and clean. But I seriously, from the filling station to Highway 20, where once they were stationary, it stopped. As soon as they hit the gas again, out it came. It came all the way down the hill as well. So it's leaking out both sides. Like, to me, that just doesn't make any sense. So that's my two observations, and I don't know if we've addressed those issues or not. But
To Mr. Cook.
Through the mayor, that this council report doesn't address those issues. This was really looking at expanding the use of the station itself. The policy really is needed to a review and an overhaul. It hasn't been really looked at since it was in its inception in about 2011. We could put some things in the policy to urge drivers not to waste water, but as soon as that stuff comes out of the outlet for the tank, it's theirs. We own it to the outlet. It's their hose that connects to the bottom of the tank. It's their tank. It's their business, and they've paid for that water. So we could look at putting some language in the policy when we update it to address some of those issues, but this specific report does not.
And I don't know if it warrants it or not, or if it's that much of a concern, but I'm thinking if there was something in the policy that said, you know, you can't allow this water to splash out all over the place. And by the way, the saving the $12, that doesn't help me much when I've got my convertible following that vehicle. I get washed. But I'm wondering if there's something in the policy that says you can't allow this to happen, or maybe you're not gonna be allowed to use our filling station. You know, it's only, I think I see one company that still has a few trucks with that open top, so.
Okay, any further comments, Mr. Cook? Maybe it's something staff can look at, but like you say, once it passes that one valve, it is their water. You'd think it'd be a other enforcement needed other than town staff, perhaps. But perhaps you can look at putting something in a policy. Up to you.
Yeah, through the mayor, yeah. I think once the trial period's over, we do a bit of a policy revision, and we can definitely look at some language to put in there just to try to, like I said, try to urge driver operators not to allow the water to spill over the road. And there might be some provisions in the Highway Traffic Act we can probably look and quote too. Haven't really looked into that in depth, but it might be something that we could add to that.
Excellent, Councillor. That's
Yeah, and sorry, thank you. And my point being is summertime is one thing, but wintertime, you know, now we're looking at, I mean, we already had some complaints about the ice buildup when they come out right there on Effingham, and we've seen the damage that was on the roadway there. But now you're following that vehicle, and it's in the wintertime, and it's freezing as soon as it hits. So thank you very much for that.
okay. Thank you, Councillor Eckert, or Deputy Mayor Eckert. Councillor Wink.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just looking at, last week I probably went by the water haulage station 4 times, and there was 2 trucks there each time. Do staff anticipate a large number of additional users if we were to add this policy? Like, I know Mr. Ward has power washing, but are there other types of commercial or agriculture endeavors that may add to the busyness of this water station?
Before I turn to staff, I think that's one of the benefits of this of this pilot program. For one thing, if it does get overloaded, it will come back to council, and we will be able to change. Should I go to the Director of Public Works for any idea if you think it's going to be, this is going to be used extensively if we open it up, or have we had any indications or any requests, I guess, from other people to use this station?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So personally, I'm not aware of other requests. I'd punt that over to Ryan to speak more about. I believe we have allowed commercial users prior to this policy being in place. But this policy has been in place now for several years, and it limits the usage of the bulk water station to licensed water haulers that are hauling for potable uses, and also have retained a certificate from the Niagara region for that purpose only. So I'll pass over to Ryan, see if he has any comments with respect to past uses.
To Mr. Cook?
Yeah, through the mayor. When the town initially took over the site and we actually installed that station, we removed the existing and then completed a number of upgrades. There was concern mostly from the community of the increased traffic for when we opened it, because it was a private hauler station previously. There was only one truck operating out of that. We have heard some requests over the years, a number of landscape companies or power washing companies. It's hard to assume how many people will try to sign up until we actually get the program going. I think we'll hear very quickly if there is too many people operating at that station, both from the existing haulers and the community surrounding. So that is a risk definitely for opening up the station for expanded use, but we really don't know how many people or how many other companies will sign up to use it at this time.
Thank you. Councillor?
Yeah, I'm just concerned that, okay, landscape companies now, so they've got bulk tankers and whatever, like, how much traffic are we gonna get, and can we sustain that traffic, and is there any mechanism? Yeah, it's a trial, 12-month trial, but, you know, what happens if that we get excessive applications to utilize that site?
Mr. CAO, is there any method that we could have a number kick in and have this come back to council sooner if there was a traffic problem?
So I had some involvement in the conversations led by Mr. Cook and Mr. Marr with our, primarily with our water department staff and somewhat with corporate services. And the two things I'd say are, one, there's a fob system, which is how people pay, and we have knowledge of the fobs, obviously. So we should have some vague concept of demand, or more than vague. We should have a very specific concept of demand. But also, I think I walked away from those my modest role in those conversations, understanding that if there are problems, we are not going to wait. This is our water system. We're going to come, like, it's a 12-month, but if there are problems, we'll take immediate action, and then we'll be back here in 6 weeks or 6 months or whatever the time frame is. This is not, because it goes to probably your single most important service provision as a municipal council at the end of the day. We won't allow things to go poorly and just live with it while we go through 12 months. So in the event we become nervous or wary or have some ground of concern, whatever that may be, you'll see us back here much sooner, and we'll actually take administrative action if we need to. Although we held it out as 12 months, that's assuming there are no major problems. This is not a file where we would allow major problems to develop and simply say, well, okay, at the end of 12 months, we'll wrap it up. That we would be, or fewer.
Councillor?
Yeah, that gives me some level of comfort. Thank you.
Thank you. before I go to another counselor. So after reading the report, I had a discussion with Mr. Cook this morning. My two suggestions were, and I think one might help make sure there's a certain level of use, is that the minimum tank that would be allowed to fill up would be 500 gallons, so that we don't have someone show up with a pickup truck with a 45-gallon drum on the back or what have you. So I would like to see that. I think that'd be a great thing to put in the policy, 500-gallon minimum. And the other thing, and again, I talked to Ryan, and also I addressed our legal, and that was if they were, when they come in and sign the form for the town, if they were to also have a line on that form that their usage was strictly industrial, would that save them having to get a Niagara Regional Health potable water hauler if they tell us that it's just going to be industrial usage? Because I know these guys, this Robert Ward, he went to Niagara Region, and they said, well, if you're not hauling this water that's going to be used for human consumption, you shouldn't be in here.
Through you, Mayor, there's no harm in adding that line to the form. I would suggest that we also build in some protections for the town in the event that that's a misrepresentation.
Yes.
Just, and that's easily accomplished on the application form as well.
Excellent. Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Kerr, I saw you had your hand.
Real quick question, are there hours of operation or is it a 24/7 access to it?
Through the mayor, there is an hours of operation. It isn't included in the policy either, but that is something that it's on the application. It's communicated to the haulers. That I can't remember the exact times at the moment. I think the station closes at 9:30 p.m. on Monday to Saturday, and Sunday it's a little earlier.
Councillor?
Yes, that's fine. I was just concerned that a lot of companies may decide, okay, we're going to do a 4 a.m. fill up. We don't want that because people aren't going to want the heavy trucks going by to load up. And to be honest, if landscapes get involved, they're out by 6:30 on all summer long. They're going, so they'd probably want their water early. So that was just a concern that I had.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Nesnick.
Yes, thank you. So I lived across from a water filling place station for several years, and my understanding was the water used to pour out from the top down into the big opening tanks. So I'm not sure whether that was a potable water or non-potable water. I have no idea. I just used to watch it happen. So now I see that you are recommending, if it's water to be used for non-potable reasons, that there's an air gap. So would that be filled from the top or still from the bottom as the current potable water is, but with a special hosey connection that supports no backfill going in to contaminate the water system? That's what I guess I'm looking at, reassurance that the water system itself won't get contaminated by these trucks.
Mr. Cook, please.
Yeah, through the mayor, that is correct. Maybe not the most technical terminology for the top load, but there is the air gap. It's basically just a pipe that you connect your hose to. It's down near the bottom of your tank just for ease of use. It just runs up beside the tank and then pours into the top where there's usually a port or a hole. And it just needs to be 3 pipe diameters of space, and that will 100% not allow water to come back from the tank up through into the system. And that's why we recommend that.
Thank you. So they won't have to get this expensive thingy.
Hosey thingy.
Hosey.
Thank you, Councilor Nesnick. Councilor Barnarski?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. If we're able to leave that line in for the Niagara Region Public Health certificate, and they do issue it, I don't know, what the hoop is to jump through to get it, but that may reduce some of the additional haulers from actually coming to fill at the station, I would guess. Because if you're doing, landscaping, you want to fill up there, but you have to go get this Niagara Region Public Health certificate, they may just say, forget it, I'm going to fill up where I usually fill up. Is that fair to say?
Through the mayor, it might have been my punctuation in the in the recommendation, but we're not actually asking for non-potable water haulers to get that Niagara Regional Public Health Inspection certificate. It's kind of the way it reads, and I understand that, but I think that might have just been on me. But yeah, that wouldn't be a requirement of a non-potable water hauler.
Okay, thank you. And then as far as actually determining increased usage or complaints, are there any measures that we take to monitor that, or is it simply, that's tough to do, I guess, without having a camera installed, perhaps. Just kidding. But is that like soliciting feedback? How do we do that?
Through the mayor, to the CAO's point, we will have an idea of how many people are going to be kind of connected to that through the FOB system and the license and account with the town. I don't believe it will take much to hear feedback from the existing users.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions on this report? I guess I'm just, again, because I've dealt with Mr. Ward for the last 4 years, and I know that in the past, town staff has been adamant that he goes to Niagara Regional Health, and they've just been as adamant that he didn't need them to do their certification. So I just hope that somewhere along the line, if someone says, such as Mr. Ward, that the Niagara Regional Health will not look at my tank because I am not hauling potable water, hopefully there will be communication between town staff and the Niagara Regional Health Unit as to work it out, I guess is what I'm saying. Excellent. And I'm sure there will be. Okay, any other comments? If not, I will call the vote. All those in favor? I see none opposed. Thank you, and I turn to the clerk. Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The next report is 11.2.4, update for rehabilitation of Pelham Arches project, and I have a motion put forward by Councillor Wink, seconded by Councillor Kerr. Be it resolved that Council receive report 2025-0155 for information, and that Council direct staff to implement option blank with respect to the installation of the cladding on the arch structure. And Mr. Mayor, there is option A and option B within the report. Option A is to reinstall the cladding on the arches under the direction of the design engineer, and option B is do not reinstall the cladding on the arches.
Okay, thank you. Comments on this report? And I look to Councillor Hildebrand.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. The arches are a favorite topic of a lot of people in town. That means that I get a lot of telephone calls about the arches, including the local paper. Let me first acknowledge that the initial observation of bolt failure was taken seriously, and corrective actions were implemented immediately by staff under the direction of a licensed professional engineer. He in turn revised the design and is recommending the installation of the cladding under his supervision as being a safe installation. Here's what we know is the root cause has been identified. The bolt failure was thoroughly investigated. The engineer identified the root failure, addressed the issue with a revised design, included upgraded connection details, improved material specifications where necessary, and addition. Engineering accountability. The revised design was stamped and sealed by a professional engineer, a regulated profession whose license requires that they act in accordance with public safety, engineering standards, and provincial codes. This signature is not procedural, it's a legal documentation of fitness and safety, and he bears the responsibility and the liability of that. When I operated as a professional engineer, I probably signed 20,000 documents. Those documents held me personally responsible, and that's one of the first courses you take as an engineer, is a legal course, and it tells you, be careful what you sign, because you will be responsible, because most things engineers do, they're not on paper, other than your signature. They are actual physical things that last for a long time. So it's not something to take lightly. And you must have the qualified insurance to cover and make sure you're doing it right. The site supervision ensures compliance. The structural engineer who did the work, the professional engineer, if the cladding goes on, he will supervise the cladding installation, which will guarantee its safety. So whether we decide to put the cladding on is just a financial decision in my view. It's not a safety issue. I believe all the requirements have been taken by staff and the professional engineer to ensure we have a safe arch structure for this community for the future. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
And perhaps you don't want to comment on this at this time. The financial cost, I believe, if I remember correctly, is $5,000. How are you leaning towards that at this time?
Well, my leaning towards that is this. On rotating equipment, like when you get your tires changed on wheel rims, you're supposed to go back once to get your wheels torqued. On commercial vehicles over a certain size, you have to have a license in order to torque up wheels. So basically, on structural assemblies, on big structural buildings, they never go back and re-torque things. Here we're going back to retorque them. My feeling is once the structure is retorqued, the structure is safe and cladding is safe to be installed. So for the $5,000 installation cost, I would spend the $5,000 to make it look like the original structure and proceed on that basis.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Councilor Hildebrand. Any other comments? We do have to choose between A and B. Any other comments, opinions? Go back there, Councilor Kerr.
Quick question, what's the anticipated lifespan of the cladding?
Do we know that? I'll go to Public Works Director, Mr. Marr.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, so I don't have that answer readily available, but it is made of plastic and has a long life, the material itself. But I'd have to speak to the engineer with respect to what is the lifespan of the cladding itself.
Councilor Kerr.
My reason for asking is that it's 5,000 right now, and if it suddenly becomes, well, we have to replace cladding, and then the next group, there's another replace the cladding. That's the only thing I'm anticipating. It's not a one-time $5,000 cost. Potentially, it could be multiple times over the lifespan of the actual steel. So that's the only thing stuck in my head. It's kind of like a vehicle has to have a regular oil change. Sometimes things wear out and you get new tires on it. That's all. It's just a query.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Mayor Eckert.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm a real big supporter of projects that come in on time and under budget. And I love that, love to hear that. And I think we allocated $25,000 for the rehabilitation of these. And if I'm reading that correctly, we've came in under that $25,000, is that correct?
To the Director of Public Works.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, correct. So the total cost for the rehabilitated project is in the order of $17,000. So we ask council to approve somewhere in the range of 15 to 25. We are anticipating the bolts to be retorqued 6 months after installation, and that was on the recommendation of the engineer. I do have to make a correction in the report. So we estimated that cost to be about $1,500. We did get a price from the contractor that did the reinstallation of the brackets. That price is $4,600, so a little bit more expensive, but that's to retorque the bolts. That's on the recommendation of the engineer, and that's how staff are going to proceed 6 months following the acceptance of this report. With respect to the installation of the cladding was removed with town staff, and the idea is that we would use town resources, existing operating budget to complete that work. The major cost there is the rental of the man lift, which is about $2,500 per week. So we would expect that under the direction and supervision of the engineer, that cladding would be reinstalled over the course of a closure of 3 days.
Thank you very much, and I certainly yield to the expertise of my colleague from Ward 3, Councillor Hildebrand. We already have the cladding. We don't have to repurchase it. We're expecting that the life expectancy is long because of the materials used. And then Councillor Kerr's concern, if the cladding lasts 5 years or 6 years or 10 years or 15 years, a council in the future can say, okay, now that the cladding needs to be replaced, we're not going to put it back up because the cost would be too great. So I would certainly be in support of the option A of reinstalling the cladding.
Okay, thank you, Deputy Mayor Eckert. Councilor Wink?
Thank you, Mayor. To the director, just a quick question. Can the bolts be retorqued with the cladding on, or do we have to wait 6 months and then put the cladding on?
To the director?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, so my understanding is that the bolts can be retorqued with the cladding on. However, in order to install the cladding, like I said, it's going to be about a 3 to 4 day process using town staff. And the recommendation, if that's council's wish and direction, would be to wait for after the summer festivals till those are completed, and then we can get in and do a closure over a period of, again, 3 to 4 days and have the cladding reinstalled.
Councilor?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Anyone want to put forward a motion? Councilor Nesnick.
Yes, thank you. So I'll put forward the motion that we choose option A to reinstall the cladding on the arches under the direction of the design engineer at an appropriate time.
Okay, thank you. Is there a seconder? Councilor, Deputy Mayor Eckert, you will second the motion. Again, as the motioner, any further comments, Councilor Nesnick?
No, I think everybody has mentioned that we have the cladding. It sounds as though engineering-wise, it would be prudent and safe to do so, and it does improve the look of the arches. So I would be in favor of that.
Thank you. And as seconder, Deputy Mayor Eckert, any further comments?
No.
Thank you. Okay, now on a duly passed motion, is there any other comments? Not seeing any, I'll call a vote. All those, this is for choosing option A to reinstall the cladding on the arches. All those in favor? Any opposed? Not seeing any, motion carries. To the clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That brings you to the motion as amended. If Councillor Nisnik and Deputy Mayor Eckert are okay, we'll reuse you as a mover seconder. Thank you very much. So, Mr. Mayor, a vote on the motion as amended with option A.
Okay, thank you. One more time, any further comments? Not seeing any. Voting on the motion as amended. All those in favor? I see none opposed. A motion as amended carries.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That then brings you to item 14. And I have a motion put forward by Councillor Hildebrand, seconded by Councillor Bernarski. Be it resolved that be it resolved that Council of the Town of Pelham have been given due consideration to the following. Do now read a first, second, and third time and do pass same. That the mayor and clerk be and are hereby authorized to sign and seal the bylaws as follow. 38-2025 being a bylaw to amend the 2025 fees and charges, number 88-2024, to amend the fees and charges related to the planning and engineering schedules. 40-2025 being a bylaw to amend 4481-2022 to rezone lands on the south side of Summerside's Boulevard, east of Station Street, legally described as part of Township Lot 167, geographical Township of Thorold, and parts of Lots 14 and 15 on Plan 717 from Residential Development RD to New Greenfield Development Residential 2 170. And 39-2025 being a bylaw to appoint Suzanne Craig as the Integrity Commissioner for the Corporation of the Town of Pelham. To you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments on any of these bylaws? Not seeing any. I'll call the vote. All those in favor? I see none opposed. Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That brings you to item 16, resolution to move in camera. And I have a motion put forward by Councillor Niznik, seconded by Deputy Mayor Eckert. Be it resolved that council resolve into closed session to consider the following matters. Matter 1, closed session report 2025-0148, property matter Ward 2, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality as per section 239-2C, and a position, plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or behalf of the town as per section 239-2K. And item 2, closed session memo 2025-0162, employment matter, non-union, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees per section 239-2B of the Municipal Act, and labor relations or employee negotiations as per section 239-2D of the Municipal Act. To you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor of moving in camera, I'll call the vote. I see none opposed. And as we move into in camera, I suggest we have a 10-minute break. Thank you.